Hello and welcome, it's Chris from Christopher Holt Training, and welcome to this tutorial where we're talking about another posture fix. This time we're talking about the rounded shoulder. So this area here gets all short through the front of the shoulder and through the pectoral muscles. So we probably end up in a position something akin to this. Now, what we're looking for is trying to fix that posture. And as I've mentioned before, the chin poke, which we've looked at, and the rounded spine, they're very closely related to also the rounded shoulder. You could put these three together into one tutorial, but I've broken it up so it's a little bit manageable. But if you watch all three back to back, you'll have a good little routine when it comes to stretching, and you're a little bit more of an understanding of the functional position to be in. But before we get into that, I just quickly want to mention wherever you may be on social media, please do leave a comment, a question, or some feedback in the comment section below. It's great to have your comments, and it's useful to have any questions that, hey, if you need answering, then I can go about answering it. Alternatively, please do come to Facebook, Christopher Holt Training, LinkedIn, Christopher Holt, or YouTube, Christopher Holt. Please do come along to any of those. If you're on YouTube, please do subscribe to the channel. Click the bell icon and you'll be notified whenever I release a video. So back to this tutorial, we're talking about rounded shoulders. So we want to try and avoid this position, and we want to try and be in this position. So from a functional perspective, what I've talked about with regards to the screen, what we're looking at is, yes, we are staying up, but we're now focused down on the keyboard, because it's this position that's causing this rounded posture. So where, if the screen is low, we're going to be hunching down, that's going to encourage the shoulders to come forward. But if the screen is up, the only other thing, so we've got that extended spine, now it's the keyboard. So if you can see my hands, they are effectively in that position. The elbows kick out and the hands come together for the keyboard. Now, in that position, that's automatically, so as you can see, you can't really see my hands, but as you come into that position, you can see my hands or my shoulders start to round. As I open up, they open out. So in an ideal world, if it was available, you would have a keyboard, bit for the left hand, bit for the right hand. Obviously, in a general sense, that's not going to be available. So what can we do to be able to get into a more effective position? Well, very simple. We go from elbows out and hands together to an elbows in posture. So we want to try and get the forearms as parallel as we can make them. Now, that's not 100% you've got to do it. It's got to be as good as it can be for you. So we want to have sort of elbows in together, and then we're able to use the keyboard more effectively. So as we bring the elbows in, that, automatically is going to open out the shoulder. So that's one thing that we want to be focusing on. Number one, elbows tucked in. The screen in some respects will take care of itself if we're sat up straight and we've got that extended spine. Then we're thinking about the keyboard, as I've mentioned so far. So what we've now got are some very simple stretches that we can start doing, again, to be able to open out this area. So the area that we're talking about is front of shoulder and across the pec. So I'm quite lucky where I am. I've got a sort of shelving unit right behind me. You don't have to do it at your desk. You can do it away from the desk. You can do it on a door frame, whatever it needs to be. But basically, we come in, we put our forearm here, and then again, I've got a nice swivel chair. So here, my arm is in line with, or goes straight through either shoulder. But what I can then do is I can then start turning away. And now you can start to feel this area opening up. So it's just a nice sort of chest and shoulder stretch. Now you might find that it goes more into chest, or you might find that it goes more into front of shoulder. Either way is fine. All you're focusing on is making sure you've got a stretch through that area. But more importantly than feeling the stretch, it's opening the area. So again, we're just getting into this open position. Not worried too much about where the stretch is. It is literally just opening out the shoulder area. If you then want to go about stretching it even further, you can then go about doing that and then really finding the stretch between the shoulder and the chest. What you can also do, it's a little bit harder for me here because I haven't got as much room, but if you can make the arm straighter, then you're potentially going to get some bicep stretch as well, because the bicep, or one head of the bicep, joins onto the front of the shoulder, the front of the shoulder blade, I should say, which is in about this position. So you've got deltoid, which goes across the top. You've got the bicep, which goes across here, or to here, up the arm. And then you've got the pec, which comes across from the sternum, across onto sort of the front to the middle part of the upper arm. So those would be 3 muscles to be aiming for when we're stretching. Now, how you do that is, as I've mentioned, you come into this position. That will tend to get front of shoulder and pec. If you then go for a straighter arm, so it needs to really be a straight arm, and then you'll get the bicep in, and then you can differentiate between them by just then bending the elbow, stretching, straightening the elbow, and stretching. But again, all you're really focusing on is getting that area opened out. So to quickly summarise what we've talked about, with regards to a functional fix within the office space or the workstation, we want elbows in and arms as parallel as we can make them. That's going to be the best opportunity to get that open and keep that open. Because as I mentioned with all the stretches, we get about a 20 to 30 minute opening effect before it starts to go back the way it came. So if we can be in this position, it's going to be much more effective for us in the long run. Then we've got the 2 stretches for the 3 muscles, the pecs, the deltoid, the shoulder, and the front or one of the heads of the bicep. And that is into this position, swivel away, stretching and opening. And then if you want to include the bicep into that, or isolate the bicep a little bit more, you would then go straight through and stretch here. So those are some very simple fixes, some very sort of functional, practical things that you can start doing to open out and keep you away from that hunched position. So many thanks for watching. My name is Chris from Chris Hole Training. I will speak to you in the next tutorial.